Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for hopping in on another edition of the Jboy Show. Excited to have you here, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, underground in a sewer, listening through a solo cup with the bottom cut out of it. We don't care as long as you're listening or watching. We appreciate you. Hit that subscribe button. Got another great guest. Going to keep the hits coming. But before I get there, I want to give a shout out to betonline.ag. Head over there today. Go ahead and place some bets. We got Major League Baseball open today. Don't be scared to make baseball bets. They come through a little bit more than you think. Look at the pitching matchups. Go with the over-unders. That's just a little clue there. The online casino, it's always open as well. And they've got unbelievable teasers. Check those out. So go to betonline.ag and tell them Jboy sent you. But I want to introduce this guest. I've had him on the Just Audio before a couple months ago. Excited to get him back on. You can catch him on Off the Bench. You know, we have double pits to Hesty, Jacob Chester, on the show all the time. But really excited about getting my buddy T-Bob Hebert, former center from LSU. Really excited to have you on. T-Bob, what is up, dog? And I'm going to be honest with you. I just hope this time, if you're drinking water, you don't almost have a stroke like you did the first time.
I forgot about that, dude. What the hell was that? I like swallowed an almond wrong or something, and I couldn't breathe for like 5 minutes. Also, I think I'm going to steal double pitch to Hesty.
Dude, yeah. That one's been cooking up. I've been cooking that one up for a minute.
That is excellent. Also, it's kind of like it's an immediate age rangefinder.
It is.
Because that's a very specific Axe campaign that you're referencing there.
It is.
And so, like, if you're not around our age, you're going to be like, what the hell? Like, I don't even get it. Like, what's that a play on?
No, I know. Do you remember when Axe, like, was big and, like, first came out? Like, everybody at my school was like, listen, the chicks dig it. Like, it's like putting, like, scent killer on you when you go hunting, man. Like, that it's amazing. Just people that weren't there for the Axe effect don't know what we're talking about, but that was a real thing for at least 6 months.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. The ladies loved it. And they had the commercials. And yeah, the double pits and Chesty was up there with the best. I mean, look, I owned multiple scents of Axe body spray. So
without a doubt,
I got the marketing worked. I got sucked in
100%, man. Well, enough about the Axe, even though, again, you know, I'll die on that hill any point in time. But I want to start, man, with some March Madness. You know, we're going to get to the football and talk about that. It's been wild. UCLA beats Michigan. We got an 11 seed in the Final Four. But, you know, we keep talking about Baylor and Gonzaga, and we should. To me, it's been a collision course. I cannot wait to see that game. But this Houston-Baylor game in the Final Four, to me, is going to be the scrappiest game of all time. Both those teams, unbelievably athletic, really talented on defense. But just overall in the NCAA tournament, you know, what are your thoughts? I'm just glad we have it back, bro.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's, to me, and let's be clear, on all of my sports rankings, college basketball is actually lowest on my list, right? Like, I love college football. I love the NFL. I love the NBA. Due to doing this job at LSU, I've gotten more and more into college baseball. Also, baseball is a weird thing where it's like the older I get, the more I understand like the attractiveness of the game.
Come on home, big dog.
It's like, because I loved it growing up, and I moved so far away from baseball, and now I'm older. I got kids. The pace of the game is like way more appealing. I can just feel myself aging. But baseball's nice. Like you age into baseball.
You do.
And so I'm going through that. Maybe it's because I grew up a huge NBA fan, but I haven't always loved college basketball. And even now I still don't. But by far the greatest strength of college basketball is March Madness. And if this tournament hasn't embodied that, then nothing will, right? I mean, you've got unlikely winners throughout, yet you've still kind of done this wonderful dance of having these Cinderella stories and unlikely winners that you could get behind. But now at the end of the day, you're still getting the big money matchups that you would have wanted or hoped for from the very beginning. And then with a school like UCLA, I mean, we talk about that's what it's all about. To go from being the first four to now the Final Four. Yeah. I mean, that first game, think about this. That first game against Michigan State, weren't they down double digits in the second half?
I believe so.
So here's a team that literally was on the ropes, their tournament hopes on, like, in peril. They were about to fail, and they found a way to get it done, and now they find themselves in Final Four. That's the great advantage of college basketball. You don't have that in football. You don't have that in the NBA where it's 7-game series. You don't have that in any other sport because basketball is a sport that has so much variance. And yet the postseason is built around a one and done format, which like those are a bit at odds with each other, but it makes for incredibly exciting tournaments.
Yeah. And again, I love it. I was the guy, I've always enjoyed college basketball, especially the tournament. I actually think that March Madness is the greatest postseason sporting event of all time. And I know you'll disagree with me there. I just, growing up, and now I'll say this, T-Bob, seeing the SEC start to get better in basketball is such a joy for me, where it's not just Kentucky and Florida every year. You're starting to get some depth. They're starting to pay the coaches. But man, I agree. This tournament
LSU's in trouble on that front, Jake. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah. Oh, you're good.
I'm going to be very intrigued to see what happens at LSU next year, given that their big four from this year look like they are leaving.
Yeah.
I think it's probably hard to recruit to LSU right now when constantly, like every game you play on television, the announcers are just hammering home this message that like you shouldn't like Will Wade and LSU cheats and
Will Wade bad, Coach K good.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. That is the message. And here's a guy K who's vacated multiple Final Fours. That's fine. That's neither here nor there because I don't care. I have no moral or ethical illusions about college basketball. It is the most corrupt thing. It's actually what's so incredible about what Mark Few has done at Gonzaga.
I know.
Is I actually truly believe that Gonzaga does not pay players. I think they might be one of the few places that maybe actually doesn't. And here they find themselves, with however many 27 wins in a row by double digits. But yeah, it's so what's with LSU basketball real quick, what I'm worried about is not only you losing those big four, but it comes at a time right when expectations are finally starting to really pile on, because now you would have made the tournament 3 years in a row if you had a tournament last year. You went deeper in the SEC tournament than you've gone in about a decade plus. You won 2 tournament games. Like you avoided one and done in the tournament and back-to-back tournaments for the first time since the 80s.
Solid year.
Yes, exactly. And you've won more SEC games than any other team over the last 3 years. So it's like you've now built up this expectation, but that is going to coincide with a time where you're losing everyone and you got to try to quickly replace. So Will Wade and LSU going to have their work cut out for this offseason.
Definitely. And it's that kind of segues into something I want to ask you. And we talk about this in college football all the time, the transfer portal. All right. It's absolutely bananas. And I feel like I'm a firm believer that if you are going to transfer within the same division, from Division I to Division I, or from Division II to Division I, if you're going up or you're going lateral, you should have to sit out a year. Because what scares me, and I had UAB head coach Andy Kennedy on, he made a great point. There's like 357 Division I schools, but we all know there's about 20 to 25 that people are really going to want to go to. I'm just afraid of the super team deal. Just what do you think about the transfer portal in general? Should it be free agency in the mind of the great philosophizer T-Bob Hebert?
I am someone who, in the current NCAA setup, where I do not believe that players are given their just piece of the pie.
Agree on that.
I am someone who, just from a base philosophical standpoint, I will support anything that allows for more player latitude. So is this very hard on the coaches trying to plan things out long-term? Absolutely. Does it run the risk of running a free agency or creating super teams, all the things that you just mentioned? Absolutely. But in my mind, if a coach can leave and go get paid millions of dollars and upgrade his job and go wherever he wants at the drop of a hat, I just find it hard to stand against a player doing the same.
Yeah, it is a tough argument. And really, I look at it different in football and basketball, just because you have so many guys on a football roster. How will you ever build a culture at a place when you go somewhere as a coach? And maybe it's just from the coaching lens I look at it, from the player lens I look at it. But that is a great point. I think that's what makes it a great argument. And listen, we all know once you open Pandora's box, you're not closing it. So we better figure out a way forward. But kind of transitioning to football a little bit. And, I don't get on here and want to talk about, coaches getting fired or all this other stuff, but not only just after last year. And listen, you win a national championship, you lose everything that LSU lost. And then Ed O just comes out and says some interesting stuff, man. Like I just can't believe he kind of said what he said about not interviewing the guys and watching film and doing that stuff. Like, that's okay, I guess, if you telling your wife that or something like that, but to go out and say that, man, I just thought that was really interesting. And I said that, Is there a little bit of a hot seat action on Edo this year? What's kind of the feeling? I know you're on the pulse down there.
Yeah. So the comments about not interviewing are interesting to me for a couple of reasons, because that's very honest, right? And we constantly want more honesty, but then a lot of times we get it, we're a bit upset by it. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just an interesting dynamic in covering this job. I think it is clear that LSU was not ready to handle the challenges of success, right? Nobody is better in a bad situation than Coach O. Look at the interim spots that he's been in, losing to Troy at LSU, and then a couple of years later winning a national championship. Like, nobody is better in that regard. And then you finally win that national championship, and so you climb the mountaintop, right? You have reached the ultimate goal that you've worked for your entire life. Well, surely at that point, all your problems are gone, right? You've made it. You've made it. But that's the thing about success, is that all it does is come with a new set of problems. And it looked like LSU may have lost their way a bit in terms of doing the things that got them there in the first place. And so then you make a horrible hire in Bo Pelini. You lose all this talent. You have this kind of perfect storm of bad, and you immediately go from a national championship to a 5-5 season. What I like is that LSU and Orgeron avoided the sunken cost fallacy, right? They didn't stick with Pelini or some of these other things that had clearly gone wrong just because there was money committed there or something like that. Like, they bit the bullet, they made the hard decisions, and they were, I mean, look, everybody, if anybody's trying to improve in anything in life, one of the hardest things to do, one of the best things to do, is to be fully and honestly self-critical. Yeah. And when I look at the moves that LSU has made, that looks to me like a group that has looked at, okay, what did I do to cause this to go wrong, and how can I fix it? And when you look, every move that they've made in terms of hire, in terms of how they're trying to develop players' relationship with the leadership on the team, develop relationships with the players earlier on than ever before, it looks like this offseason has been one giant commitment to righting the pitfalls that caused them to go 5-5 last season. And so I'm actually coming out of this on the other side, because again, nobody is better with the back against the wall than O, right? When they were 3-5 this year, having just gotten their ass kicked by Auburn, staring down a game in the swamp at night with the Florida team that we thought may go to the Natty. Then Ole Miss after that, like 3-7 looked very real. Yep. And they got a little lucky, combined with some skill, and they managed to pull 5-5 out of their ass, and they closed in the recruiting class. So I think you've built that momentum up, and now I really like these new hires for LSU. Yeah. So it's a fascinating deal. Well, yeah, I don't quite know that they were ready to, okay, what do I do now that I reached that mountaintop? Yeah. And I think some harsh lessons were learned. Yeah. But as far as hot seat goes, the only way it would be a true hot seat would be if he just if they went 4 or 5 losses again, then I think you're talking about one more year and people would make a move.
Yeah, well, it's almost like the dog chasing the mail truck. Like, once he catches it, what's he going to do? After winning the Natty, it's almost like, all right, guys, we won it. And tomorrow I have no idea what we're going to do. I guess we're just going to do the same thing over again or something like that. But no, I'm with you, man. And I've been there every time. I love the Pete's hire. I love what he does. And me and Jake talked about this, formationally with motion, the quick game, the RPO game, I know is going to be big. I like Max Johnson to win that job down there, but I want to shift a little bit more to the SEC West. We got Alabama reloading a lot, Texas A&M replacing Kellen Mond, which, I actually think Jimbo's going to open that offense up a little bit more. I didn't think he trusted Kellen to be able to make the throws that he'd have to be able to make. But is there a team in the West, Mississippi State, to me, I still think that roster is a long way away. Mike Leach, I'm going to say this, has got to mix it up a little bit in this league. You got to be able to run the ball just a little bit, not just the smoke draw. But is there a team in the SEC West you see this year? And shoot, it may be LSU, man, and it may be Auburn. I want to ask you about Auburn in a minute. That can, give Bama a run. Because listen, Bama there is not going to be a drop off in talent. All right, Devontae Smith, unbelievably good. Jalen Waddle, unbelievably good. You can go down the list. Landon Dickerson, all these guys, unbelievably good. But Alabama has signed the biggest and the best, and it's just a matter of getting on the field and getting some experience to me. Can anybody in the West give them a run, or are we just going to keep watching the same movie over and over again?
No, I mean, look, it's a situation where I think it's always just going to be, as long as Nick Saban's there, it's Alabama, and then everybody else, and then there's will be the odd year where somebody's going to clip him, right?
Yeah.
And so I think LSU would have a chance. I think objectively, people feel like national voice would be probably A&M would have the best chance, like you
I
said.
don't think that's a crazy thought.
Even in a post Kellen Mond world, that Jimbo's an offensive mind, and so you would think he'd be able to that he's been developing a quarterback behind Mond, and they have a lot of momentum from last season. So their trajectory has been upwards, right? So you think they could continue riding that. So I would go A&M first, and then I would say LSU, because look, I think when I look at this schedule, and I just look at trying to predict records, I'm starting to feel pretty bullish on LSU, to where I think that I think a realistic expectation for fans, I think 9-3 is the floor. If you don't go 9-3 in the regular season. And I think 10-2, if LSU was to go worse than 9-3, I think fans would have justified cause to be legitimately upset.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they may come back like Jordan. And again, it's so crazy going into this year. I'm just glad we got a spring practice. We know how important this is. But speaking about sleepers, if you're having trouble sleeping or having trouble relaxing, SundayScaries.com, a CBD company. They have gummies, drops. If you have a problem with any of that stuff, had a little trouble sleeping, I'll eat 1 or 2 of the gummies. It relaxes you. It's nothing crazy. Don't freak out or go running for the hills. It's CBD. Everybody calm down. They do an unbelievable job. It's great stuff you can trust. And they've got 100% money back guarantee. I don't know if you don't like the flavor of the gummies or something, you can get your money back, but I promise you will. And if you use the Jboy promotion at SundayScaries.com, you get 25% off. The prices are always great. But again, everybody likes coupons. 25% off, discount code, promo code, whatever you want to call it. It's Jboy, JBOY. So head over to SundayScaries.com. Very excited to welcome them as a new sponsor. And we're here with T-Bob Hebert, having a great time, whether it's the Axe Effect, whether somebody's giving Alabama a run for the SEC West, or whether it's his cat that in the background just jumped off but looked like the most comfortable cat I've ever seen. I can't see him or her anymore. Oh, let me see it. Bring him on.
Well, this is the other guy.
Oh man!
Background, and so my wife walking around. Yeah, the whole family's here. The 2 kids.
I love it. I love it. It's a real show with real people and real humans and animals. But I'm a dog person. Not that I dislike cats. I'm not Ace Ventura. I don't have a bunch of cats or anything like that. But I do want to move to the East real quick, because Georgia. Listen, George Pickens goes down, torn ACL. Don't think he's coming back. Jermaine Burton carted off the practice field the other day. He's going to be okay. Hyperextension, I believe. I think it was just precautionary. But looking at Todd Monken in this offense, I look to the East, and I just don't believe in Florida, T-Bob. I don't believe in him. I don't believe in Emory Jones, and I'm sorry. I know that's going to piss. Actually, I'm not sorry, because that's what I believe. But is anybody going to give Georgia a run in the East? And here's a caveat. Does Missouri or Kentucky have a chance to finish second in the East? I think Kentucky is sneaky.
So, okay. So as far as I don't think anybody is going to give Georgia a run. Florida would be closest, but I am with you. What has Emory Jones done in the spot action that you've seen him to inspire confidence? In fact, it seems like Dan Mullen's overcommitment to Emory Jones has really cost him at times, including even in 2019 against LSU, where Kyle Trask is killing it and just driving 75-yard touchdown drives over and over again. He puts Emory Jones in. What does he do? He throws a pick, right? So, I think that whatever. I'm kind of biased against Florida too. I don't like Florida. I don't really like Dan Mullen. So, yes, I'm always down with Florida will fall short takes, especially after last year where it looked like everything was lining up. So, I think it's Georgia clearly, and by a pretty wide margin. Yeah. As far as second, I have trouble buying into Kentucky. I feel like this hype kind of surrounds him each and every year. I was very impressed with what Drinkwitz did at Mizzou. Now, it's probably a function of how low my expectations were for Drinkwitz at Mizzou, because even when he left App State, the players were like, look, because he was only there for a year, right? And the players like, look, let's be clear. He bought into our culture, right? He didn't have to buy into his. So I was thinking, okay, how good is Eli Drinkwitz actually? And it wasn't just him torching LSU. They put together some really good results last year that way exceeded expectations. So I like Mizzou on the rise. If I wanted to come up with a a sexy pick to finish second to Georgia, and it was between Mizzou and Kentucky, I would actually lean Mizzou.
Okay. I mean, I don't think that's a crazy argument at all. I like Bazelak a lot at quarterback, and I just, now that, Kentucky understands that you can throw the ball forward, you can actually take the ball and throw it to another one of your players or a player on the defense, regardless of how, whatever. Once you can do that, I just thought their offense, the past couple of years was literally like getting in a time machine. And I know football's cyclical, and 30 years from now, everybody's going to be running the triple option. Nobody's going to be running the spread because it all comes back around. But I think the East is going to be interesting to see who finishes below Georgia. Because again, I'm also of the thought that, I'm wondering if Dan Mullen is just looking at the NFL and just, like, man, I almost want to take my talents LeBron style.
Well, that's the weirdest part about the Florida thing with Mullen is like, all the reporting is that the relationship is like really frayed and not good. Yeah. And they're winning at a really like high clip. And so you would think that wouldn't be the case, but I mean, I guess not hard to understand. It seems like Mullen could be a bit hard to work with. And he definitely got into some antics last year, which I kind of like. I do like a little more character.
Low key, I do too.
In my coaches. So like the Darth Vader thing, very trolly, but I kind of support it. The fight thing, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it seems like Florida leadership, though, has a bit of a problem with Mullen, and Mullen's obviously an uber confident dude as well. So, yeah, I mean, I could see a world in which he does eye the NFL and he's like, whatever, I'm done with these college politics. I mean, because look, Mullen's greatest strength, he's not the best recruiter, although they've done a good job at Florida, but that's never been like what you go to Dan Mullen for. Again, he's not like the most charismatic or likable type of guy, but he's
play calling, right?
Yes, he's a hell of a game planner. I mean, he has been a thorn in LSU side since his Mississippi State days. He outdueled Dave Aranda on multiple occasions, and Dave Aranda is one of the best in the game. So that skill set you would think would translate to the NFL.
Yeah, well, I catch flack for this, but if I had to pick one guy to call a play on a 4th and 4 or a 3rd and long on a drive you have to get, it's Dan Mullen, just because I think what he does is spacing, the way he used the running backs out in routes and stuff like that. And that translates to the league because that's what it is. That's what you do in the league as a head coach. There's no recruiting or, academics or study hall. You're literally game planning and figuring out ways to get guys open in space. But as we wind down here in the late 4th quarter, a little 2-minute drill, 2-minute drive, however you want to call it, Auburn hires Brian Harsin, T-Bob. And I like to ask everybody I get on about this. And it's been very common. The answer is Auburn went out of the norm to hire Brian Harsin. I think he's a guy that understands how to put a program together and how important the recruiting department is and recruiting high school offensive linemen. Auburn did not sign a high school offensive lineman since 2017, a high school offensive tackle since 2017 before Brian Harsin came here. That to me, sometimes I don't even believe myself when I say that, but I know it's true. Like,
that's
how
crazy.
Dude,
that's horrible roster management.
That's horrible. And I always talk about recruiting and roster management. Those are the two things that you have to do to win. Nick Saban, his best 2 attributes. And I know he's an unbelievable defensive game plan and all this stuff, but a lot of times you can have better players and a worse game plan and win. Yeah. That's how it works.
His greatest attributes are he understands more so than anyone how to run a program as a whole. Yeah. And some of the core tenets of that is recruiting and roster management. Like 100%. Nick Saban has completely inoculated himself against guys leaving for the NFL, or like, it doesn't matter. They just have a perpetual motion machine built up over there.
It's a machine.
That is shocking. I mean, LSU's had some bad stuff like that where like they didn't send like a linebacker into class, and then it led to like a huge dearth of talent there. I mean, LSU definitely has its own O-line issues, but they've at least signed guys. That's pretty shocking.
It's amazing. And the first time I really saw that and heard that, I had to like double check it with like 3 different people, and they're like, yeah, man, that's true. You go back and look. Yeah, literally. It's like Scooby-Doo. But my last question, we got the draft coming up. All right. And a lot of things are going to change. Hold on.
Go ahead. My bad. I want to jump in here before we get to draft, because I'm curious about this from the Auburn perspective.
Go ahead.
I understand familiarity. I understand a guy running his course, right? Mm-hmm. And it's real easy for a lot of outside talking heads who don't understand the local culture to like sit here and be like, well, what, how could you fire Gus Malzahn and all this stuff? And look at some of the success that he had and the price. Like and I understand that can be so out of touch with the local tenor because I've seen it myself firsthand. But my question is, what is the expectation for Harsin at Auburn? Like what does he need to do in order for Auburn fans to be happy in year one and then like going forward?
All right. Well, my answer to that, I'd have to break it off into two. Year one, I think year one is a wash when you bring a guy in, especially with the roster that he inherited. I think 8-4 would be amazing, but you're probably looking at 7-5. I mean, the schedule, even though you get Alabama and Georgia at home, they're so far ahead right now in personnel, especially up front. You're going to be fighting uphill. Crazy things have happened. And then you go on the road to A&M. You go on the road to Arkansas. That's going to be a better team. That's scary, even though Pittman inherited a really bad roster too. And regardless of what you say, that's the truth. So I think this first year is a wash. But the first thing he's got to do is beat Georgia. That's what you got to do at Auburn. When you get hired at Auburn, you get hired to beat Alabama and Georgia. Yeah. Gus Malzahn was 2-7 against Georgia. And a Hail Mary away from 1-8.
That was
should have been 1-8. That was insane. But Gus had some success against Nick, and that's great. That's, to me, it's the greatest rivalry in sports. We all know how important that is. But you're 0-4 in New Year's Day bowl games. You never make the playoff. You go to the national championship game and really blow it because, in my opinion, you're up 21-3 with 2 minutes to go before halftime against Florida State, who's at midfield on 4th and 3, and you send the punt return team out and call a return? Yeah. What? They're like, literally, go safe, get the ball. It's 21-3. You're going to be up at halftime. But then all of a sudden, Florida State scores a touchdown. It's 21-10. They get the ball, come down at halftime, go score again. It's 21-17, and now we got a ball game. To me, that is inexcusable. With the ball where it is.
I've seen that firsthand with Les Miles as well too. Who, unfortunately, that was my last game in national championship that we completely blew. But the tail and the bitterness from losing a natty can really, I mean, it's a seed that is planted that doesn't go away. And with every subsequent struggle, it only grows. And the other thing about Gus is like his wins over Saban are simultaneously, they were his greatest asset, but they ended up being his greatest weakness as well, because those wins are so rare that you feel like you can't waste them. Like a year where you beat Saban in Alabama, you can't be 9-4. Like you have that has to be a year where you are going to Atlanta for the SEC championship.
Yeah. And you got to win championships. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to, and you won one in 2013 in your first year when the book wasn't out on you. Because I'm a firm believer that if you don't evolve as a coach, schematically, the book's going to be out on you. It's like a pitcher coming in the first few outings that nobody's faced and looks pretty good. And they're like, oh my God, it's going to be the greatest pitcher ever. And then 2 months down the road, he's getting shelled because they know what they're getting from the guy. And then, I don't think Gus Malzahn, he wasn't a guy, like you look at Brian Harsin, he's out in the community. He's, embracing the fan. The Bruce Pearl book of getting fans excited about you being a coach. Gus Malzahn just really wasn't that guy. And if you're not winning championships and you're not, and listen, I'm not saying he's a bad guy and the players liked him and all this stuff, but you're not getting paid $7 million a year to be a good guy. That just goes along with you winning. I look at some of the coaches that really aren't good guys, but they win. So everybody's like, oh man, but don't worry about it. So I think it's a great question, but Harsin, and you're not going to win championships every year at Auburn. You're not, you're just not, but you've got to at least sniff them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or at least win a couple.
I talk about LSU. You want to be championship relevant.
That's exactly right. And Georgia, just Kirby Smart. It's like the kid that, you walk in the high school and you see the bully shoving the kid in the locker every morning. That was literally Kirby Smart shoving Gus Malzahn in the locker. You know what I'm saying? And taking all the stuff out of his locker and throwing it on the hallway and kicking it around, stomping on it. And,
Georgia needs to win a championship though.
Dude, let's talk about that for a second.
They got the easiest road in the East. They got all the talent, all the 5 stars in the world. They were so close, which still has to mess with them, given that they felt like they were in prime position right there.
Just don't run cover 2.
Yeah, exactly right. But like Georgia, they are operating at an expectation level that is above championship relevance right now.
Yeah.
Because that's where they got so early on, and that's where you think they should be due to their recruiting and their easy path in the East. They need to win a championship. Like there is nothing else that should or is going to satisfy Georgia fans?
I know. Well, if I'm a Georgia fan, you got to strike while the iron's hot. You haven't won one since 1980, which blows my mind. That blows my mind as well. With all the talent, and I'm sure as an LSU guy, I know it doesn't hurt your feelings, but it's just amazing to me that you look at all the teams that have won national championships. And look, I think they got a shot this year. I think if they're going to do it, and we say this every year, and Alabama's, once they get experience, is going to be a problem. But if Georgia's going to do it, even without George Pickens, they need to do it this year. And that Georgia-Clemson matchup, week 1, in Charlotte, I cannot wait to see that one. That's going to be a fist fight.
Fantastic, dude. Hopefully we'll all be vaccinated, get a crowd in there.
Oh,
that would be so sick, dude. Because in my opinion, no sport suffered as much from the pandemic in terms of watchability than did college football. Now, I still loved it, and I watched all the games and I rode or die with it, but the pageantry of college football is what separates it and makes it so special. It's like the equivalent of like a medieval tournament day, right? Where everybody descends upon the castle, the capital city.
Coliseum.
And there's exotic sounds and smells in the air. There's merchants selling their wares, and there's this other group of people from these faraway lands. They wear like funny colors and they sing different songs. And so it is all these wonderful sort of like medieval echoes. And that is my favorite part of college football. And so much of that was taken away this last year. So I hope we get it back. Cause you have that matchup in Charlotte, and then LSU's opening in the Rose Bowl with UCLA. It would be so cool if, which I doubt it, but it would be very cool if there could be fans in the stadium over there.
Yeah, and again, like you said, it's so much more than just the game on the field that we love. And we know how it is down here, man. It just means more. But T-Bob, last question. I'm going to let you go. T-Bob Hebert from Off the Bench. Check him out. Him and Jacob Hester, one of my favorite shows to check out. Do the Bengals need to draft Jamar Chase and put together the tag team of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? Those guys, literally, it's like they have they can talk to each other without even moving their mouths, like telekinetic.
Yeah, I mean, they have that sort of relationship. If you listen to them talk about it, I know that Burrow has, I think, publicly or privately, I'm not sure how public he's been about it, but I've heard that he's been advocating for Chase. And a lot of people are like, why do you want Jamar Chase? You need an O-lineman to protect Burrow, right? And you're not wrong, but here's what you have to consider. When you're talking about the draft, I'm always wary about being married to a position versus a player, right? Because you kind of, if you're married to a position, you're going to inherently overreach. A lot of times, unless it's just the position you need happens to also be the best player. That's great. That works out for everyone. So if you're like, I got to get an O-lineman, are you going to take an O-lineman that maybe won't work out? Like, will there be, I mean, maybe it's like a Penei Sewell. Would he still be on the board there? If he was still on the board, he's maybe a sure thing as you're going to find. But like, is he more of a sure thing than Jamar Chase? Because when I look at Jamar Chase, like, I have no doubt in my mind he's going to be a monster.
Yeah.
All the elements are there. He ran a 4.3 today, twice during his 40. He jumped 41.5 inches. You see the tape from 2019, which is filled with him dominating first-round cornerbacks that are now starting in the NFL. I mean, just like there's no, barring injury, and even the fact that Justin Jefferson was the number 2 receiver on this team because of Jamar Chase, and look what he just did. So like Jamar Chase to me is a sure thing. And I think that has a lot of value when you're talking about the importance of these first round picks. And so unless you have an O-lineman that you feel as good about, then I think you have to go with Chase. And also don't lose the element of Chase helps to protect Burrow, because getting open helps. Yes. And having that sort of rapport with the receiver where you know he can protect you by allowing you to get rid of the ball. It's not as effective as a dominant left tackle. Nothing is, but it is a piece towards that eventual goal. Yeah, and then you can spend resources later on O-line if you need to. They already signed a tackle in free agency. So I've heard some people have like some very strong, you have to draft an O-lineman takes, and like that Jamar Chase would be ridiculous. I'm not saying that there's no value there, but to me, it's much more of a conversation. Like it's a lot of gray area. And I don't think you go wrong either way, but I would fall on the side of teaming up Chase with Burrow again.
I would too, because it's not like you can go get Jamar Chase from free agency. You can go get a lineman, or you can go, find, at least somebody serviceable that's already in there. But before I let you go, I do want to give a shout out to ebay.com/sneakers. Go over there. Old shoes, new shoes, doesn't matter. Check them out. If you like kicks like everybody does, if you don't wear shoes, I highly suggest you do. Walking around barefoot is not a good idea. They got a team full of authenticators. They'll make sure the tongue's right. The shoes, everything that the cobbler makes on the shoe, they're going to make sure it's right, that he has cobbled together to send to you in a box that they have cobbled together. So head over to ebay.com/sneakers today and tell them Jboy sent you. But T-Bob, man, it's been
I got my Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, dude. Hey, you're rocking the Mandalorian shoes and the Star Wars shirt.
Yeah,
Are you from Tatooine or something?
I'm a fanboy. I'm a
hey,
huge
I
fanboy.
listen. I respect it. I wouldn't be surprised if you pulled a lightsaber out or something. But man, this is a blast. It always is when I get you guys on, man. Hesty told me if I'm down there, I'm just going to come kick it on the set with you guys and chop it up. I know you guys are going to start breaking stuff down, man.
You have an open invite to the studio whenever you come down.
Dude, we're going to have to make that happen, man. Go eat some good food and maybe drink some cold sodas, if you know what I'm saying. But
Yes,
but definitely, I appreciate you. Appreciate you guys joining us. Head over to jboyshow.com, cop some of that merch. We got more stuff coming on and putting on there, koozies, all type of stuff. Also subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find us. It's been another edition of the Jboy Show with one of the best first names in sports media, T-Bob. And Jboy's going, gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.